are now on block 3 of topic 10 on page 317. Refreshing our memory on some stuff that we learned last week. In your own words, what does mean? The average. Mean is your average. Median is your middle number when your numbers are in order from least to greatest. Mode is your most. Range is the difference between your largest and your smallest number. And then I have a little typo here that's supposed to say quartile. We learned about quartiles. What kind of graphs have quartiles? Box and whisker plot. Okay, today we're going to start learning what information the box and whisker plots gives us.
Isn't it like quartile? Like when you plot the y-axis and the axis, aren't those quartile?
The
little different.
The 4 sections, that is your quadrants. Close. Today we're learning on what box and whisker plots, what kind of information they give us. Some people, that's terrible. Some people really struggle with this. I hope. Okay, that's a generic looking box and whisker. Are the whiskers the same size? No. Are the boxes the same size? No. And we said there's quartiles because there's 4 sections of a box and whisker. The 2 whiskers and the 2 boxes. 4 sections. What we did not go into is that box and whiskers, we found all of this by having a lot of different numbers. And we found the median, the max, the min. This number here was our what? Min. That's our min. This number here was our max. This line here represented our median, the middle number. Then we had a Q1 and Q3. Okay, well, all those numbers that we looked at, what each quartile means is that 25% of the numbers is in each section. So if I had 100 numbers listed, how many numbers would be in this long whisker? 25. So since this is a long whisker, is those numbers spread out or are they close together? They're spread out. So that's what a box and whisker tells us. If the section is very short, if I have a short whisker or a short box, that means my numbers are closer together to each other. If it's spread far apart, then the numbers are spread far apart. So that's what we're going to kind of get into today as to what information it gives us. So here I have 25 points. Where is it mostly clustered on my number line? The beginning or the end? The beginning. So when I create this box and whisker, is my first whisker going to be shorter or longer than my second whisker? Shorter, because I have a lot more dots going on over here by 0 than I have going on over here by 12. These are over here by 12 to 6. They're kind of more spaced out. There's a cluster at the beginning. So what they're gonna do first when I play this video is they're gonna divide the 25 points into 4 sections to create their box and whisker. So they divided it into 4 sections, created it. Do I have a relatively short whisker to start off with? Yes, so because there was a lot of clusters at 0 and 1. Is the boxes the same? No. Is box 1 or box 2 more clustered? 1 is more clustered because it's tighter together. This is a little more spread apart. This end part here is massively spread apart. That kind of makes sense. Okay, because the other hours we're kind of struggling with that. Alright, so it says notice that the box is much closer to the smallest value than the largest value. So they're saying this whole box of the box and whisker is kind of shifted closer to the 0. What do you think this means about the spread of the data? Since my whole box is kind of shifted over to the beginning of this, what is that telling me? What do you think?
There's more clusters of numbers at smaller numbers than larger numbers.
Okay, she said it's more clustered over here in the smaller area. When we first looked at the line plot, was that true? Was there more dots going on this beginning part of the number line? Yes. So that's why this whole section is boxed off here. Well, from 6 to 0, let's see if y'all could, how intelligent y'all are here. From 6 to 0, what percent of data is covered between 6 and 0? How much?
75.
Dang, bro, I'm impressed. Because how many sections is being covered from 6 to 0? 3 sections, which 3 quartiles is 25% each. So we can say 75% of the data lies below 6. That's about all we need to say, really. So what percent of the data is between 3 and 12?
50. Oh, wait.
3 and 12 is 50%. 6 and 12 is 25. Then you got just between 0 and 1 itself has 25% of the data. All right. So I have these 2 box and whiskers. Their first sample and their second sample. And it first asks, how does the medians compare? Okay, what do we know? What do we know about box and whisker and median? Isn't there a line that tells me the median? What line tells me the median? The middle line tells me the median. It helps to have a different color pen. This middle line tells me the median. So what do I know about the median of these 2 graphs? They're both on 3. So I can say the median is the same. Then it asks about an interquartile range, and we haven't really talked about an interquartile range. We've talked about a quartile, we've talked about a range, so now we've got to figure out what an interquartile range would be. Well, inter is inside. Quartile, we know what quartiles are, that's this section, so the inside sections. So that means we're looking at the inside quartiles, this line and this line. And we're looking at the range from those two. Well, what is the range from 1 to 6 on this one? 1 to 6, what's my range? Range is your greatest minus your smallest, which would be 6 minus 1, which would be 5. Okay, my interquartile range of my second graph. Here's my inside line. This one's from 1 to 5. What's my range of this graph? Is 4. So what could I say about the interquartile ranges? They're different. Who's larger? The first is larger. So I'm writing up here because that's too low to write. Interquartile range. The second is largest. Oh no. The first. Hold on. First is larger. Then it wants us to look at the spread. If I just had these two graphs, which one do I think would be spread out more evenly than the other? I would say the first is spread out a little more evenly. Is it still spread out evenly? No, but since this box is a little wider than the second box, for people on the video watching, since this box is a little wider than this box, it's telling me it's spread out a little more than the first. So when I'm talking about my spread, the first is spread more. Whoops. That's correct grammar. Makes sense to me. And they basically said that in the paragraph there. Okay, next we're going to look at histograms. Histograms is just a fancy name for bar graphs. So we're going to have to create some bar graphs, but first we're going to look at a frequency table. They gave us some intervals, and we have to see what the frequency is based on my results that they have in the box. So how many numbers in my survey fall between 0 and 1.7? Well, I don't see any decimals listed in my survey. But, so I need to know, does 0 fall between 0 and 1.7? Yes. So I need to count all my zeros. There's 10 zeros. Does 1 fall between 0 and 1.7? Yes. How many? There's 3 ones. Does 2 fall between that? No. So how many total fall between this? 13. 13. Okay, the next interval is 1.7 to 3.4. Does 1 fall in that? No. We've used all these. We're most likely not going to use them again. 1 doesn't fall in between those two numbers. 1.7 is larger than 1. 2 falls in between it. How many 2s do we have? 1, 2, 9. Does 3 fall in between it? Yes, so I can include the 3. 13. Does 4 fall in there? No. So I'm at 13 again. 3.4 to 5.1. Does 3 fall in between that? No. Does 4?
Yes.
And there's 8 4s. Does 5? Yes. And there's 3 5s, so that gives me 11 total. 5.1 to 6.8. Does 5 fall in that? No. 6?
Yes.
There's 4 6s. Does 7? No. So, what was it, 4? 4. 6.8 to 8.5. Does 6 fall in that? 7? Yes. There's 2 of those. What about 8? 3 8s. 9s? No. So that gives me a total of 5. 8.5 to 10.2. Does 8 fall in that? No. 9? Yes. There's 2 9s. What about 10? There's 1 10, so that gives me a total of 3. 10.2 to 11.9. 0. 11.9 to 13.6. 1. Okay, now I need to create my histogram or bar graph. Okay, this bar graph's going to look a little different because this intervals here isn't just one number, it's several numbers. So I first need to set up my graph. Can I count by ones and fit? What's my highest number there? 13? Use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Can I fit it? Count by ones? Yes, so I'm going to count by ones. Now this bottom part is going by intervals. I'm going to count by ones here. But my first interval starts at 0 and goes to 1.7. Well, here's 1.7 I would say is about right there. So I'm going to have my bar graph. Does it go up to 13? This is my first bar of that bar graph. Why did I not put it on that one line? Because it's said from 0 to 1.7. Then I have 1.7 to 3.4 there, and it goes up to 13 as well. Then 3.4 to 5.1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It'll be about right there. I'm going to change it. No, it goes up to 11. No, that's 11. Then I need 6.8. And that goes up to 4. Then 8.5. That goes up to 5. And 10.2. 10.2, about right there. here. That goes up to 3. What do I do for 10.2 to 11.9? You have no idea?
I didn't say that.
Oh, that was the other goober head. What do I do? You don't know how to graph?
It's just taking a while.
You don't have to be pretty. Look how ugly mine is.
Okay.
11, 12. So it's gonna go. I passed it. Right there. So that 10.2 to 11.9, it's at 0, so I wouldn't have to draw anything. It's beautiful. Creative Arts is doing you well. And I have a beautiful histogram here. Alrighty then. I'm gonna set up number 4 for you, and then you're gonna finish it. For number 4, you need a sheet of graph paper. If you don't have a sheet of graph paper, you can get one out of my basket. Alright, so number 4, I have 3 columns in this chart. And the first column says number of children. Is this in intervals like number 3 was? No. So it's going to be done a little different. The second column says frequency of county A, and then we have frequency in county B. So I'm going to have 2 different histograms, graphs I need drawn. They just conveniently had one chart for all of it. Okay, so my first histogram, in needing to set it up, I need to know what my highest or max number would be in each column. What is my max for number of children?
6.
I thought you meant for like the first row.
The max of number of children would be 6. And what about frequency in county A? What's my max? 12. So I'm keeping that in mind when going to my graph paper here. And I know I need to go at least 12 slots high. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I think I might have messed up, so I went 1 extra. So I made sure I'm at least 12 high. I think I might have miscounted, so I just drew an extra slot. Then we said number of children was 6 wide, correct? Was this in intervals? No. So we started off by saying we were going to look at 0 children. Then we needed to look at 1 children. I decided I wanted my bars to be 2 bars thick. I could have made it 1 bar thick. I could have made it 3 bars thick or 4 bars thick. Quit. But I decided on 2 just because I felt like it. So I am going to say that's 2, number of children, 3, 4, 5. We only needed to go to 6, correct? Okay, so now I've figured out how wide I needed my graph. I'm going to close it up. And this is gonna be County A. And I know is it necessary to number all the tick marks? No, if I label 5, I probably can figure out what the other ones are. Alright, so looking back at my frequency table, number of children for 0 for County A, how many do we have? County A for 0 children has how many?
14.
County A,
Oh, sorry, 3.
3. So for 0, this whole section that's labeled 0 is going to go up to 3. And what is it for County A of 1 children? Is a 5. So 1 is going to go up to 5. And I'm going to continue going. Then I'm going to do a whole nother chart, histogram, for County B. Then there's a couple questions on the back that you have to answer about the histogram. And you have the rest of the class period to have that finished. Thanks for listening. Have a great day. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. And peace out, llamas.
Bye-bye, Lon.